feel I'm sitting too much. I usually always standing, even my office is standing. And right now, like I feel is the only thing that I don't like. There's something like, I gotta get up. My ass is getting so soft. It's just like, enough. Hey, my business name is Beyond Pilates. And the origin, I started taking Pilates in 1987. In 1992, I started to teach a few classes, but very small. Remember I was saying yesterday about the whole hoopla about like if you were, like if you use the word Pilates, I was quite nervous, but I was not also, like certified, anything like that. So I went into personal training and all that kind of fitness because also it complemented my dance, and also it stayed in a world of interest. And then I, over time, just kept practicing, kept teaching, accumulating the data. And I had a huge loft, 3,000 square foot loft, and half of it was my dance studio, half of it is where I lived. And then also where my Pilates studio, like over time build. And it was not a company, it was just a place. I knew that it would take years before I would feel qualified to be able to be out there. So I kind of kept it very small and also just kept practicing, doing the work and, teaching, because you can only get good at what you do. So that took quite a while, but I called it, like Noam Studio. And so people came to my studio and they did. And over time, I got an injury while I was performing in LA. And then I felt I needed more information. So then a friend was saying, I'd been doing Pilates for 16 years. And then someone said, go to this place. So then I ended up going to the Pilates Center in Boulder, Colorado. Okay. And then I did the training, and the level of expertise and the level of knowledge and generosity was outstanding. And I felt I learned so much. And then continued practicing, opened my own, opened my own studio, got incorporated and started teacher training. And then I kind of just felt bored. Meaning the moment I took the course, the teacher training program, like in Boulder, I remember saying to Amy, what I want to do is to teach this stuff. This doesn't seem hard to me to absorb, and I guess because I had already so many years behind me, so I just felt, and within the first weekend, I said, I want to do what you're doing. And, and of course, I understood that it would take time, but I wanted to do that. And then I worked at rising to the level, and then you practice and you teach. And at one point I felt like in any teacher, when you start something new, you learn the form, and you have to learn the form like our students, but I feel when you're starting, you're caught in a set of rules, because you need to practice them, like doing, I don't know if you're a pianist, you have to practice, same thing in Pilates, same thing in sports, you have to do your drill, so you need, but at one point I felt I had fulfilled in my mind all the requirement to feel that I could.
That you're competent to teach?
Yeah, and I'd been teaching and I was teaching it, but I felt there has to be more. There has to be more. I just feel like I'm bored hearing myself talking. Like I know people are not, and I know that I'm still saying, but there has to be more. And it's funny because I was trying to think about what we talk about today. And last night, a lot of friends have been telling me about this amazing documentary of Big Farm Little, what is it called? Damn it.
Anyone in the comment section remember it?
Yeah, I will. It's a big farm, little farm or something. It's a documentary about these two people that basically decided to go back to the source. Back to on a land that had nothing, like the land had been dried out. There was no more nutrient. They created this oasis of rebuilding and creating this incredible farm in the middle of nowhere in close to LA, an hour from LA. But it made me think about where I am in my teaching and where I want to aim in my teaching, according to what I was just saying, is that all that matters now is not what I know, but
The biggest
going
little
back.
farm.
That's it. Thank you. The biggest little farm. It's
Jay.
so amazing. Thank
I knew
you,
someone.
Jay.
It's,
Yes.
it's like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. I just called a friend
Yeah.
and you got your answer.
Yeah. My life. Yeah, I've used
Use
my
the
life.
lifeline.
Yes, I did. And I feel that's where I feel Jay has taught me. Jay, he's at a place where it's not what he says. It's often what he doesn't say. It's in his silence,
Yes.
knowing the curiosity and the courage that he has in himself because of his years of teaching to literally create a space for you where you have to face where you're at.
Yes. Can I jump in there for a second, Noam?
Oh, please do.
Because I'm
Anytime.
thinking, just generally speaking, this is kind of like a higher personality level question, but why do we have to wait till we're old to have that level of confidence?
Maybe because like everything else, it takes time. I don't know. It's maybe there's
You know?
many answers, but there's some young people that just get it right away. I just go, what? Why am I wasting my time? Why did I not do it? But
Right.
I don't know.
Because it's true. As I hear you say that, and it's true. Like I hear people say, "Well, Jay, he just says just move, and people move," and then we are trying to follow these cadence and these rules and these things, and we have to do it a certain way. And there's people out there that just don't care, and we admire them for not caring, and they say, "Oh, it's because they've been doing it for so long. Oh, it's because they have this degree, or oh, because they have."
Yeah.
It's like, well, no, just do it, just say it, just be, right?
And I think there's an element that I'm getting to realize is that I read something from Brooke SILER yesterday on Instagram. Ultimately, what it ends up doing is that it's not about what you know, it's about teaching what's in front of you.
Yes.
And often we go there and we have plans for what we want for them. But it has nothing to do with you, it's about them. And if you are in the moment, then you can try to figure out a way to listen to their body and what they need. Because
Yes.
all you should be doing, and we all know that, really, we all know it, but it's easier said than done, to be in the moment and to gauge the right amount of timing, the right amount of
Yes.
information, the
Yes.
right where I feel my teaching is where I'm trying to the preoccupation I have when I teach is dosage. It's
Yes.
the word dosage. What does that mean? So I can give them a greater experience and more ha-ha moment for their body.
Yes. And you know what part of that is, though, is having a trust in what you know.
Right.
Because if
Yeah.
I'm in front of you and you're moving,
Yeah.
I either want to stay with what I've prepared because I'm confident what I've prepared, or
Yeah.
trust that what I need is already in me. So when I see you move, I can say, you need to do this exercise. You need to move this way. This will probably be the best apparatus for you. Just having a confidence in my teaching ability and in my knowledge base and my education and my investment in myself that I can do it when the moment's there in front of me.
It's exactly the key of what you just said, what's invested in me. I think you can only be a good teacher if you're a good student, meaning like a student in your practice of the practice of Pilates or whatever that is. And if you
Yes.
don't own it or understand the process that it requires for you to know what you're asking them, you don't really have it. You just have a lot of information, and then you just keep imposing, saying, don't do that, do this, do that, don't do that, no, more of this, less of that, and you go, it's driving me crazy.
Yeah. One of the best things that happened to me in my Pilates journey was not being successful on my intermediate test out.
Yeah.
I did my course at Lily Viola Studio in Toronto. Chris Robinson taught it. So just learning from just a masterful teacher, just people like Lily has a great eye. But I came in, I did peak Pilates before. I had taken a Pilates course maybe 10 or 15 years before. I was a personal trainer and kind of, a leader in that one corner of the world for a while. So I came in kind of casual with it. And when I failed that first test out, that snapped me right back in line and made me recognize that I had to really pay attention,
Yeah.
dial this in, understand it, and own it internally instead of trying to just memorize and get the answers right on the next test. And that changed my teaching. That really changed the way that I taught because I had to internalize it more after that moment.
And ultimately, we only learn through adversity, like we learn through pushing through breaking through, or through, like attention, like attention of some sorts. We don't really remember a lot of the things that feels good, which because you're just in it. But what really
Yes.
changes us is what you have to work through. And it's
Mm,
weird because it may sound negative, but at the same time, it forces you to embody something that you take either for granted or that is requires you to improve or some sorts, like, and I've
right.
learned the best through all my mistakes, and I hate making mistakes. I'm such an OCD,
Yes.
like just having to be just so and work so hard at making sure that, no one can say anything. I'm just such a perfectionist. And
Mm-hmm.
you can't be, like
You can't.
ultimately
It's
a real,
paralyzing.
it's just, and all you, it's really not that I'm enjoying it, but I appreciate, because when I did fail in my life, I failed royally, and it was like publicly in front of people, and like, and not
Really.
only one person. Oh yeah, it's just like, because in the dance world, you're only as good as, and you want to try something new, and you work for 2 or 3 years on something new, but you're not there.
What happened? What was that?
Well, I was lucky the moment I left school, and I think it's also because in the world of dance, there's not a lot of guys, like you're surrounded
Yes.
by. So I was given opportunities, as a man, even bursaries and stuff like this that, most women who were like 10 times better than I was, were actually still waiting for their own turn. But so it
Uh,
gave me a responsibility to really be as good as a woman, in that field, because I mean, around the block, there's probably 400, like women who are incredibly better than I am, have no job, and there's basically 3 or 4 guys, each, like
uh,
1 mile round, so I
yes.
felt there was a huge responsibility because I had friends who were not getting jobs, and people not as good as I am, or I was, or I am, that were getting jobs. And so I took that very seriously. Yet you get to a certain level, and I got propulsed, like my company went international after almost 2 years with this incredible dance artist, Dana Gingras, and we created a company called Holy Body Tattoo. And so we toured for
Wow.
almost like 15 years, 8 to 9 months out
Really?
of the year. Oh yeah, it was really beautiful and brutal, and like just you felt
Yes.
you had no life, but at the same time you felt like really rock and roll. Yeah, I'm on the
Yeah.
road.
On the road. Yeah.
You had the high where you're living on like your hotel is a 5 star, and then after that you're in a dorm in like like Russia where there's the light bulbs, and you're eating like tuna cans, and then the next one you're like 3 star hotel, and then your dance floor can even like be on the full floor, and then you have like 10,000 people watching you. It was crazy, but loved it. Felt I was young. It was like, yeah. But ultimately, again, I went to a level where I felt my level of expertise and my level of expectation to myself and what I felt my path was about rise up to a level, and you go, what more will is there for me? So I tried different things, yet people, you get known for certain style, and like then you try to change what the branding that you're known for, because
Yes.
as an artist, you just want to explore, like my job was not to become like an as household items. It's to keep creating, provoking, evoking, and creating a dialogue,
Yes.
like, and so it's the same thing in my teaching Pilates. There's no real different, or even in my life. And so I worked on a project where I felt really it was all the unknown, and it was very difficult. And, like you're working with new people, because I felt I was accumulating in my past with people that you create a family with, like you
Yes.
get to know
Absolutely.
them, and, like you understand, and of mine, like, and I needed to go outside my comfort zone, and I did. And then did always sold out, blah blah blah, like, for years. And then this show, people were walking out and going, what the
Oh
going like, what
no.
happened? And to my best abilities, it didn't matter how hard I tried, the project was completely a real mess.
Just a
Yet
flop.
it was completely, and then I had to live with that. And in the art world, you're only as good as your last piece. It doesn't matter how much, there's always going to be someone else. So then all my funding started to disappear, like my reputation just went from, yeah, like, and it was really, really hard because I took risk and I felt, like it's a business at the end of the day,
It
like
is, it
anything
is.
else. And yet I had to go back over time to what's important and why I do these things, and also realizing that I think it's not so much that the work that taught me is the major failure. That I always
Yes.
worked so good, like so hard being a good student at working, and this one, nothing could save it. And
Nothing. Yes.
it gave me over the years, believe me, it took me quite a while, like quite a while to get over it and trying to go back to not be swayed by what was not there anymore, but
Yes.
having to go, I'm doing this because of I want. I heard an interview this week, I think it was with Leslie, Leslie
Yes.
saying, of course, any business, you want money, you want fame, blah, 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 like anyone wants to be successful at the end of the day.
Mm.
Yet, you know, the process of it, she was saying it took her 2 years to get to that process, to get the
Yes.
success she wanted. At the end of the day, what drives you is never the money or the success. There's that power, there's that drive that
Hmm.
is for all of us out there that keeps getting us back onto the mat, or
Yes.
getting back to keep trying to become better teachers, a better
Hmm.
communicator, is that thirst, that moment. And for me, that failure really forced me to go back to what this documentary yesterday was about.
Yes.
Going back to the source, what is truly important, not what I know or not what I think,
Hmm.
in the moment, using my eyes and what I see, what is the most important in this moment. And there's an element where you go, am I failing? Do I know? Am I not? Like there's no guarantee. You have to wait for what they give
Yes.
you. And it's a truly honest dialogue.
So,
Says the most courageous way a teacher can be is not to tell them what to do, but to create within the space you create around them to be having a haha moment or to be curious to ask the question that you have
yes.
for them. And
Right.
you
Then
have to
you've
wait for it.
cultivated, yes, you're cultivating an environment where that learning can happen instead of just giving them the answers.
And I think to me, like that is the key answer. And where I feel I have greater confidence to be brave enough to wait and to
Hmm.
create space between myself is because I've been blessed and lucky that my instinct has led me to incredible teachers, meeting
Yes.
incredible people like you. I meant
Well,
it
thank
yesterday
you. Yes.
it's
Yeah.
when I heard you saying trying to create a community, and like, and even right now saying a men's class. I think men needs to understand that Pilates is not for sissies. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it's freaking hard. There's
And I get
women that's that size, smaller than those guys are like this, and they can't do half of the stuff that those tiny little women that fits in my pocket go. "Ah," and those guys saying it's so hard, and it
right.
says Pilates is for girl. It's not. It's
It's
so
not.
hard.
It,
You know.
oh yeah, yeah. I talked with Nick Stauskas about this. Our identity. And
Mhm.
when you were talking about this dance and your company that was doing so amazing, you build your identity around it.
Mhm.
You flip the script, you do it, and it's not successful. And now
Mhm.
it seems like it's an attack on your identity.
Yeah.
And like when you said a minute ago, like this failed,
Mhm.
or I like this the program failed. It failed. You didn't personally fail. The program failed.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we internalize it.
Yeah. Well, what I realize is I'm not what I do. Ultimately, it's it is part of who I am. And it took me
It's
years.
part, yes.
I had a good therapist.
Yeah.
Really, it's true, but I needed someone to help my brain to realign to, again, what is the source? It's not, because I didn't, deep inside, I knew I had done something great that will change me because I took risks. And I went
Yes.
on to the unknown, and I allowed myself to be scared every day and
That's
feel like
amazing.
like a dumbass, basically going like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do this. I'm trying and it's never good enough. And I felt I did, but the response of it, or the projection back, what was mirrored back to me, was not equal to, and I'm realizing over time that it's never about, my teaching is never about me. My dance pieces are never about me. Like, they're a part of me. And of course, they're a vessel, and I'm the center, and I express basically the craziness that is in my mind.
Would be. I love when you're talking about your quest for more, your quest for knowledge. And that resonates with me in the way that I learn as well. It's one thing to teach people, it's another thing to teach teachers and to be a master teacher, or to learn with that lens. And I found that that's helped me to grow as a person and to learn when I know that I have to teach teachers. So I'm looking at it from a different perspective.
Yeah, I agree.
With TRX, for example, I do, like, when they're in town, I'll coach with them at at conferences like Canthro Pro and whatnot. And people always ask, how to get into that? Because I was, walk in and Fraser Krause will be teaching, or one of their, like Randy will be teaching, or a Jamu, and I'll go and float around, coach and stuff. And before everyone else thought to do it, I just basically walked up to Fraser maybe 10, 15 years ago now and just said, hey, I'd love to help you teach. Can I volunteer? Can I just float around the room and coach? Can I just help? And I felt that I was getting more learning that way than if I was to just pay for the course and just sit down and be a face in the crowd. I learned more when he was teaching, almost looking through his eyes at these teachers, than when I was sitting in the crowd having him teach me.
Well, we all need amazing mentors. And I think, like, this is something that I've been told before, and by very close friends: surround yourself by people that are better than you are.
Yes.
I'm not saying that it's completely the situation, but, like, putting yourself in a situation where you go to someone and say, I want to work with you, is because there's a something you want. There's a something that you are seeing, that there's a greater picture that is not about them, but that is aroused in you.
Yes.
And I feel, I think surround yourself by the people are better than, because I'm good at what I am, but not in everything.
Not in everything, right? So you find someone who's just like, I always look for the authority in that one area that I believe is my next step. I remember Kobe Bryant used to had this great saying, obviously, one of those podcasts that I watched, and he talked about going to G.O.A.T Mountain.
Oh.
So, and what he meant, like, the acronym GOAT, greatest of all times.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes.
All right. Okay. So you follow me? So
Yes,
when he joined the league, he was 19 years old, and all these guys that were older, you're playing with the Lakers, and these guys are in their 20s, and he really got beat up a lot. So he reached out to Michael Jordan, to Kareem, to Olajuwon, to Larry Bird, to all the guys who were like the top stars, and spent time with them. And then over time, they became his mentors. And to his friends, he'd say, I'm going to G.O.A.T Mountain. I'm going to go spend time with Jordan and find out how he did this move, or how he handled the crowd, or how he handled disappointments. Or I'm going to go talk to Larry Bird. I'm going to G.O.A.T Mountain to talk to these guys. And I took that analogy and I call that going to G.O.A.T Mountain when I go and speak to Chris Robinson, or if I go talk to people like yourself. Like, if I have a new question now when it comes to Pilates, I know that you're the man. I know that Jacqueline and Poland are like, they're a million people. That's me going to G.O.A.T Mountain to find out, in this corner of the world, what are the best in the business doing. So,
well, I'm going to steal that quote because I think it's an inspiration to me, because I think it's an amazing metaphor, for a process. Like, first of all, going up that mountain, I'm seeing a lot of rocks, a lot of things tumbling towards you. And I think,
right.
And yet there's a peak over there. You go, it's sunny. Yes. I'm loving it right now. I'm going to use this.
Yes.
And I'll be quoting you. I will be quoting you. I think it is important to recognize what we're saying about the element of finding a mentor, but also
Yes.
always honoring the source. I find there's one
Yes.
thing in our industry that I find sometimes, maybe because I'm a purist and I know my place and I know what is mine and I know what is not mine, and maybe because in the
Yes.
field of the arts, like there's so much.
Creative license and people
Oh,
just
yeah,
grab.
like you create something and then it becomes a fad, like, and I
Yes.
feel in even in our industry, I think it's really, really important to always recognize the source and also
Yes.
to honor the source. Like,
Yes.
yesterday we are talking about, Franklin, Pilates. I
Yes.
don't really mix the two. If I end up mixing the two, I'm very always clear to say this is Franklin,
Yes.
this is Pilates, because
So
it's so
key.
easy. And I'm not saying, people out there do whatever you want. You can do yoga Pilates, you can do whatever, you can do like T-Rex Pilates, you can do like coffee cup Pilates, pie
But
and
label
latte,
it.
whatever you want,
Yes.
but call it what it is, like, and
Absolutely.
I
So
feel
passionate about that. Oh man.
often
Yes.
I find people are using the word Pilates because we all know and it's proven and that it works, but I
Yes.
find sometimes there's a lack of ownership of realizing that it's kind of like just the last thing that is being used as a
Hmm.
principle, as a method, and as a practice, like they're
Yes.
adding their flair, which I think go creative, but name it
Respect
you,
the source. Yes.
respect the source. And I think to me,
Absolutely.
it's an important conversation for me to be vocal about and not to remind
Absolutely.
people, because I'm not here to remind people, but I think it's really important that to have those conversations, because I think it creates a standard, it maintains a standard of integrity, and also
Absolutely.
it also respect the source, and I
Absolutely.
think it's so
That's so
easy to
key.
get diluted,
Absolutely.
and to not know why we're doing this.
I just wanted to say hello to Jean-Claude Nelson,
Oh
who's
my
on
God,
here.
another like, going up the, like,
That's Goat Mountain
yes,
for me too,
yes,
right? Can I
me
tell you
too.
when I first did my peak Pilates course, and one of my buddies is like, check out this guy, and it was Bluebird Pilates.
Yeah,
Is that his?
yeah, oh
Yes,
yeah.
and man,
When
I
I need
watched.
inspiration, I go and watch his videos. I just get
Okay,
inside.
so
It's really,
yes, no doubt.
yes.
So now imagine seeing that when you are like this big football playing guy who is just getting to the Pilates world and can't touch your toes.
I go, you're going
And
crazy, and
I'm
it's a
like
good
this,
thing.
I was like, that is impossible. Half the stuff he's doing is impossible. Like,
Yes,
like
it is
I just,
impossible.
I just wrote it off. I mean, I can semi do them now, but never as fluid as him or man. There's some people out there that are on that next level. Um,
He's a natural.
he's a natural. He's a natural.
He's designed for it.
Yes.
He's
but
designed.
uh but just going back to what you're saying about respecting the source, that I think is absolutely crucial for us to do. It is yet another way of preserving the work when we as coaches, as instructors, can be in a class and be teaching and educating the people in the room. And then when we move away from Pilates, say, okay, we're going to do a cat and cow. We're going to go into a little yoga stretch, or we're going to do some functional movement,
Bingo.
or okay, and now we're back to the rolling like a ball. So
Yeah.
when we can educate the people in the room so that they know when they're doing Pilates, and when Pilates ends, then they don't walk out of a yoga Pilates class thinking that everything they did was Pilates
Yes, I agree.
or Piloxing or whatever it is, right? So so
Yes.
like you, I'm not knocking all those hybrids that come out, but just to the instructors out there who are watching, let your people know when they're leaving the Pilates room and they're going into the yoga room or the boxing room or the whatever it is, because that helps to preserve the work when people understand exactly what Pilates is and how their body is moving and what they're feeling as a result of their Pilates.
Yeah, because I did this workshop with Sandy from Vintage Pilates, like
Yes.
and she did a fundraiser for my studio and also a studio in Hawaii a couple of weeks ago, and she mentioned about that Pilates is, you need to have an element of structure and also of freedom. When I
Yes.
was speaking earlier, when I started to teach and when I started to take the teacher training program, I was way more I had to respect and practice the form and the structure in order to
Yes.
understand it. But
Yes.
now there's an element of freedom that needs to exist in the teaching. But the reason why I'm connecting it to this is that I think sometimes people, freedom means an act of creation, an act of presence, an act of listening. And I
Yes.
think some people think that, for me, that's my point of view, I guess, is that improvising with the system without
Mm-hmm.
recognizing or holding on to the structure
Yes.
is still Pilates. What I'm saying is
Yes.
that you need to be creative to
Mm-hmm.
be a good teacher. Meaning you need to be in the moment and listen to what is needed, but not
Mm-hmm.
at the cost of the structure or the
So
form or the method. And I
I
find that's
agree.
where, if you can recognize that right now you're just going crazy, or not crazy, crazy creative,
Mm-hmm.
that's good. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but you need to also remember that like right now we are framed within a box and know what the box
Yes.
that is, and I
Mm-hmm.
think if you honor that structure, then you can take the risk of saying, I'm going to go into a cat cow and that, because you know the form and you know why you're doing it. Instead of going, oh, we're just
Yes.
going to do this right now. Oh, we're just going
Mm-hmm.
to do this. Who
Mm-hmm.
cares? Like go and do
Right.
it in your own living room, or don't call it Pilates.
There's so you're basically you're saying there's freedom within these boundaries.
It has to be.
It's
Otherwise,
like
you're just
yeah,
rigid.
absolutely, absolutely. And those boundaries are way out there, but they still help us to understand what's happening within this box, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
No,
agree.
I that's good. Yeah,
And it's not
really.
we don't really speak about that because we feel
No.
almost that I'm not trying at all to, like pull people out. Pilates comes in many forms. There's contemporary, there's classical, and I think
Yes.
all together, like Jay says, any student that comes into your door is also your teacher. So
Mm,
everyone in any kind of form of Pilates, whatever contemporary or classical, is my teacher and is my student, vice
yes.
versa. And I think so. I'm not trying to say, oh, there's a one way and there's a no way. It's not at all what I'm saying. I'm just saying, let's just be very clear about how we can negotiate and stay true to the source that inspires us, like
Yes.
to keep doing what we're doing so well,
Hmm.
on all level. And I think the clearer we can be and the more honest conversation we can have, the more we can keep educating ourselves and
Yes.
finding out how we can stay inspired and true and climbing that goat mountain.
Mhm. Yes. Good. Well said. It's,
Arr.
I love the like when people like Jacqueline, for example, there's almost a sacredness to the work, respecting the internal work that's happening at the same time as the external work that's happening. Can you speak to that? We touched on that a little bit yesterday, just about the work that's happening in us while we're doing the work itself.
Um, can you rephrase the question? Just
Sure.
I'm always translating in French,
In
so my
French,
brain
yes.
sometimes I'm always guessing a little bit what is being told. To be honest, because
Okay.
my language is French. So right now I feel the question, but I'm not sure if I get the question
Okay.
or where the angle I should take it from.
Okay, sure. What do you say to people who, how can I put this in?
It's a tough
I
one, huh?
think it's more of a statement. I think it's more of a statement. I think the statement that I'm making for you to agree or disagree with is that we're doing this work and this is getting us stronger in our core and all these different things. But there's an element of mindfulness to Pilates that I really like about it.
Yes, yes, yes.
And I think that we need to be more conscientious of that, or have a more awareness of what Pilates is doing to us internally as well, like mind, soul, body, as well as what's just physically happening.
Yeah, yes, yes. And well, I'm very practical. I'm not precious about it myself. I try
Mm-hmm.
not to be, because I find for me, as a practitioner, as a teacher, I'm afraid of, I know I'm passionate. I know I'm very, I can get very narrow-minded in some
Mm-hmm.
ways. So I feel the way I see it is that we were talking yesterday about the Franklin method, which I love, is because it's a
Yes.
science. All we have, like our proprioceptive senses in our body, each almost quarter inch in our body, we have 600,000 cells that reminds ourselves where we are in space, that talks as a speaker to our brain to understand really what's going on. And for
Yes.
me, I feel on a very practical level, that's what we cultivate within ourselves and we cultivate within our students. And I feel it's just every day is different. All
Yes.
we can do is to learn to pay attention and to guide them to get to the source of what is going on that day through an
Yes.
incredible system, as we were saying, is no different than a lot of other systems. You bend, you extend, you twist, you side bend, you twist and extend, like all those things. So I feel it's truly just based on a level of listening, and
Yes.
there's nothing else. There's days are better, there's days that are not, and
Hmm.
it's not you. I think there's an accumulative power to it, but
Yes.
it's like we were saying when you started your drills, and there's a level of nervousness that I think is
Yes.
is crucial to have because it's live. You can't take it for granted. So and that state of being able to stay in that I think Jacqueline speak about is 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 the work and
Yes.
what needs to be, and yet it comes in various ways. It's not always
Absolutely.
linear, it's not always like this. Sometimes
No.
it gets like this to pull you there, and sometimes you get it at the end of your workout,
Yes.
sometimes you get it throughout the workout. You have those amazing days where you go from the beginning to the end. You had this
Yes.
zen meditation in your
Hmm.
body, and I just feel perhaps because as an athlete, I felt I always had to be at a certain level,
Yes.
always keep it like that. And I
Hmm.
felt for me, it stopped me from listening to other sources that could also
Yes.
inspire me and inform me about how to go about it, because I get bored easily. I can push something to I can intellectually,
Yes.
physically, mentally,
Hmm.
like embodying all of it to a place where I go, what is more? And I feel sometimes it comes from a different source. Like that movie
Yes.
yesterday to me reminded me of my teaching, always going from me, 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 I feel. And so there's so many ways that I think
Yes.
it can happen and it should happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
'Cause there's a few different ways you could look at something that's precious. And I think of
Yes.
the analogy, my car. Like I love driving, and I have a vintage car. Okay,
Yeah.
and with something as precious, you can hold it close to your heart and not share it,
Yeah.
or you can have it out here at arm's length
Yeah.
to share it with the world, and it gets enhanced because other people get to enjoy it. So
Yeah.
with my car, this 1986 Porsche 944, I love driving it. And everyone's like, oh, are you going to let anyone drive it? Are you going to let people touch it? I let people drive it. The first thing I do, if you know how to drive standards, I'll throw the keys to you because it's my joy. I want you to share my joy. Right. So
Yeah.
I'll let people tell me how to do stuff on it, whatever. So it's precious to me, but it's out there for the world to enjoy. The
Yes.
first thing I do is like,
Yeah.
here, take the keys, go drive. So it's not so precious I don't want anyone to touch it. Actually, it's precious to me, so I want everyone to enjoy it and to
Beautiful.
share it with everyone.
Yeah. Like obviously it's my response. It's really from, that level of I was so attached to my process and always
Yes.
trying to get the response. And I always have to feel that I have to leave it in a place where there's space between me and it, because
Hmm. It's not.
it's not me. It's a part of, and I guess I get so much inspiration from the unknown, or so much inspiration from every day trying to see where, like yesterday for me, it was that movie that reminded
Mm.
me about the power of returning to your source. And what does that mean to me? This was done
Yes.
through farming, and like the tribulation of how you get there. And I love being reminded about myself, my journey, and about the journey of others, you know,
Yes. Yes.
in various ways,
Yes.
and
And respect the path to get here.
completely. But I
I
think
think
the
yes.
word for me though is too tight.
I hear you.
It feels too tight.
Yes.
It feels it should just be there, and like almost you want to juggle with it, what it, like you're doing well,
Yes.
and what she's saying. But the word for me gets me a little bit.
Restrictive.
For me, yeah.
In the 10 minutes that we have left, how is your studio doing and how have you made your pivots with this quarantine?
I'm loving right now the because of doing the work at the Pilates, like at Vintage. I was at the studio and I was doing my mentorship and all that. But ultimately, what I did is that for almost like 3 to 5 years, I was doing all my privates online. So from there, and also have students that I'm teaching online. So it's not a huge departure. I think it was a greater departure for my students that have been coming here because I'm quite tactile,
Yes,
like there's an energy that you share in the space. And
absolutely.
I think for them, it was a little bit more difficult to understand the potential. But I think yesterday I even said and made a note to myself to ask everyone to write a short testimonies because it
Okay.
works. It really
Yes.
works. Like
Yes.
they feel they are working harder than they're working here. Because first of
Amazing.
all, in the mat exists everything else.
Yes.
It exists in everything of all the other machines exists in the mat. So
Yes.
they are working so hard without also the classical mat, the strap
And
and all
it's,
that.
yeah,
It's
there's
just,
nowhere to hide. It's just you and your body.
and
Yes.
so I'm like, I've been loving it. And of course, at the beginning, I got scared. I had to do a lot of work and a lot of coaxing. But right now, my business is pretty much more than half, all online. And even yesterday, one woman says, God, it takes me 15 minutes to get to you, 15 minutes sometimes, an hour and 15 minutes to go back home, and I'm with you an hour. She says, it's my afternoon. She says, I may continue at times to
Yes.
just do this.
It's going to supplement. I think it's going to supplement our business once everything comes back.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so
I
I'm loving it right now.
feel,
I'm sitting too much. I usually always standing. Even my office is standing. And right now, like I feel is the only thing that I don't like. There's something like I gotta get up. My ass is getting so soft. It's just like enough.